We'll just wait a couple more minutes to let a few more people dial in. We have got an amazing panel lined up for you all today, so really excited to get started and have you all speaking to the experts and hearing from them, not just me. So I am in the Reload office in Brisbane. We have about 45 staff here in our office, all behind me, behind this foggy kind of glass. You can't see them because it's all fogged up, but they are sitting there, they are working away, and I think a couple of them have dialed in today as well. Cool. I think what we might do, we're just a little bit past 10:30. I'm sure a few more people will dial in once they're all ready. So we may actually just get started. So welcome. If you have just dialed in and haven't heard my little rant that I've had for the last couple of minutes, welcome. My name is Emily and I'm from Reload Media. As I've mentioned, this is not like a normal meetup. We really encourage sort of chatting and talking to your peers and the experts throughout the presentation today. So please use the chat function. When you are chatting, make sure you tick the all panelists and attendees so we can all see the questions and things that you're asking. As you're kind of putting your questions in throughout the session today, we will be collating them and pulling them together for a Q&A session at the end. So if your question doesn't get answered throughout, we will be kind of pulling back to that as well. And also this meetup today is being recorded. So the video will be shared later for any of your teams that couldn't get along today. So you can share the insights that you've learned as well. Cool. So a little bit about me and a little bit about Reload. So Reload are we're the digital marketing experts, and we are a Shopify Plus marketing partner, which is why we have the privilege of being able to run these meetups here in Brisbane. As I said, we are dialing in from Brisbane today. We have about 45 staff here in our office, but we're also a global agency. So we have offices in the UK and the Philippines. Our team work with clients to really develop, I guess, a multi-channel digital marketing strategy that's centered all around, I guess, the key business objectives and things that matter to our clients. Whether it's to raise brand awareness or increase traffic, we kind of are able to select the right marketing tactics for your business. And we've got a few of the cool clients that we work on up there as well. But today is not about me. Today is about you guys and kind of educating you on everything that we can across tech, team, and tactics. I think three key things that people don't really think enough about when they're kind of looking after their business. So we really want to kind of bring in the experts to help you guys understand what you can do better and things that you maybe haven't thought about. So with that, we have got an absolute rockstar panel and speakers that we have on today. So Jason Coromer is joining us from Shopify Plus. Nathan Bush is from eSuite, also an e-commerce expert in his own right and one of the experts here in Brisbane. And we have Lucinda from Facebook and Instagram, a Shopify Meetup veteran, I'd say, having done a few of these in the past, but really excited for the teams to take you through those three key things that we talked about. So tech, team, and tactics, each of the speakers having their own specialty area. So let's kick off with our very first speaker, which is Jason Cormier from Shopify Plus. So Jason has over 20 years of experience in the digital marketing and strategy space and has helped enable the growth of hundreds of brands, both big and small. Jason is really excited about the incredible opportunities within the emerging retail technologies and is continuing to evangelize how Shopify platform and partner ecosystems make commerce better for everyone. So Jason today is going to be talking about, with all these technologies available today, how can we help businesses create the best e-commerce tech stack and kind of support you guys and help you understand where you should actually begin. So Jason's tips are going to look at how you can build that future-proof e-commerce tech stack. So over to you, Jason.
Oh, thank you very much, Emily. And hello, everybody. It's great to be doing events again, even when it's virtual like this, but I look forward to when we can finally do these in person again. So I work very closely with hundreds of technology partners at Shopify who integrate with us. And so I thought it would be good to share some of the insights I've learned about how you figure out what the right tech stack is for your business, right? The map graphic that you see here, this you can't actually make anything out, I know. That's kind of the point, though. It's organized as a grouping of commerce-related product technologies. This map is taken from a blog run by a guy named Scott Brinker. He's an analyst who blogs about marketing technology, and he updates this map every single year. You can check it out on his blog if you're interested. He's currently tracking over 8,000 brands, and it just gets bigger every single year, right? There's so much out there. So my point is not to have you try and read this map now. My point is that the technology choices that you have to make as a business are clearly very overwhelming. There are literally thousands of options. So I'm going to talk about some strategies that I think can help you deal with that and make better choices. So next slide, please. All right, I'm going to start with first principles. I'm going to try to keep this really basic, because I think simple works, right? Before you can decide on a tech stack for your business, you need to be really clear on what it is that you, and so your business, right? Not anybody else's business, what you need from your tech stack. The map that I just showed you on the last slide, right? It had solutions organized into specific categories based on feature sets. If you go to the Shopify App Store, you're reading blog posts for advice here, right? They'll all tend to do the same thing, right? They're going to group things by feature sets. So, here are solutions for messaging apps, or here are the best platforms for customer support, or the best tools to manage your returns flow, right? And when you think of it that way, that's actually not the right framework, I think. I think the framework by which you should be evaluating these products, and it might seem obvious, but you should be thinking about how they solve problems for your business, right? It's very easy to get caught up in some cool technology when you aren't actually trying to map that back to what the business problem is you're trying to solve. I see it happen all the time. So my advice is, start with the basics. If you're a retailer and you want to grow your business, there really are only three levers you can pull, right? If you want to make more money, you increase the number of customers who come to your store, or you get those customers, more of those customers to buy something, or you increase the number of times a customer buys from you, right? These are the building blocks to making money in retail, right? Acquire more customers, convert more customers, retain more customers. So as you are considering your tech stack, you need to be asking yourself first and foremost, right? How is this specific tool, this component that I'm considering, how is it going to help me do any of these three things? And part of the benefit is now if you're thinking about technology in this framework, right, in terms of these building blocks, then you're also setting the right metrics by which to measure how effective these solutions are. Right. So if my goal is acquisition, I want to acquire more customers, then I'm going to look for technologies that help me sell on other channels, maybe like Amazon or Facebook or Google. And when I'm evaluating those technologies, I'm going to evaluate them by tracking how many new customer leads that they generate for me. Right. And again, I know this kind of seems obvious, but really in my time at Shopify, I can assure you that some of the biggest brands on the planet struggle with this, right? They invest in technology that seems really interesting or cutting edge, but it isn't necessarily having an impact where they need help, right? And if you're a big brand, you're a JB Hi-Fi, you can, budget for this and you can afford to experiment more, and that's great for them. but most of us, we're smaller retailers, right? We can't afford that kind of experimentation. So I think that it's important that keeping our thinking to first principles like this, right? What is the root problem I'm trying to solve with technology before I start looking at what technologies I want to buy? This is a really important discipline that we have to master as smaller businesses, right? It's how we make sure we're adding the right pieces to our tech stack. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so I said there are three levers you can pull, right? But there is actually one more lever you can pull to grow your business, right? And that's time. More time isn't going to directly correlate to revenue, right? Like the other examples I gave you do. But the more time you have to spend on building your brand, right? The more time you're doing things that only you can do, doing the things that make your business unique, that time is a competitive advantage for your business. So more time is super valuable, right? And often people think that the way to get more time is to hire people, and that does make sense, right? To hire somebody to do the stuff you don't have time to do. But human beings are complicated and hard, right? Nathan has a whole talk coming up right after this, talking specifically about that, right? And people they can actually be really expensive to scale, right? If you want to get more time, it's not necessarily the most efficient way to do that. So your tech stack analysis, right? As you're trying to evaluate what I need to buy, you should be spending you should be thinking about where you're spending your time now and what tools exist to help you get that time back. This is how you identify the gaps that you actually need to fill with technology by sticking to these core principles, right? And when it comes to time, I think, like, if you're going to take anything away, my general rule of thumb is if you're doing something now with a spreadsheet, right? If you're doing something with a spreadsheet today, in most cases, somebody has solved for that and made it way more efficient. So, maybe start with that, right? Look at where you can get more time back. Next slide, please. All right, so once you have an idea of the problems that you need technology to solve, right, for your business, then you want to make sure you are in a position to fairly evaluate and compare the options. So, right away, I'm not going to lie, right? This is actually really hard to do this right. It takes time, right? I just talked about the value of time. You're going to need to invest. It's very precious, but you need to invest some of that time here because you need to do the legwork, right? You need to make the time to test and try these products out and see how they work for your business. And I know the easy thing to do is to maybe go by what other merchants have recommended, right? If you're in an online forum or you're at a meetup like this, I know that's a topic of conversation that comes up all the time, right? The word of mouth, the power of word of mouth is really compelling. So I get that. And if you don't have time, if you really don't have time, that's a useful shortcut, right? Is to look at what other people have bought. But I'm telling you, right? Because I see this all the time. Just because you install the same tools as someone else does not mean you'll get the same results. Every business is different and unique. So you owe it to your business. You have to invest the time to evaluate these tools yourself for your business. Now, having said that, you can maximize that investment of time, right? You can shortlist products based on these criteria that I'm talking about here, right? One, when you're looking at tools, you want to ask, is it built for e-commerce specifically? A really good example of this is actually, and I didn't mean to call any specific partners out, but look, it's a classic example, Zendesk and Gorgeous, right? Zendesk is a very feature-rich ticket management platform for support teams. It's designed for any type of business, though, right? We use it at Shopify. We're a software business. Lots of merchants use Zendesk as well, but really, those merchants are paying for features that haven't necessarily been optimized for commerce businesses specifically, right? Gorgeous, on the other hand, Gorgeous was built from the ground up for commerce businesses. They optimize their user flow and they continue to build new features that are meant for retail businesses. So it makes it a more effective tool, right? And whenever possible, as you're evaluating, you want to shortlist your options. You want to look for tools that are built by people who understand the unique challenges of running a commerce business. It's a really important factor. Two, criteria, right? You want to make sure you've got the resources and the know-how to properly execute and use this tool, whatever it is you're looking at, because there are some really amazing complex technologies that you can buy for your business, and it sounds sexy and it sounds great, it sounds really promising, right? But is it the right level of complexity for your business based on where you are right now in your commerce journey, right? Do you actually require that complexity to solve that problem? Let's go back to the core problems you're trying to solve, right? Is that actually going to solve for that? And if so, do you have the right people on your team with the time and the skills to use that properly? Because the worst thing that you can do is buy and pay for features that are really powerful, but you're not using them because you're not ready yet. And that's okay, right? Like, if you're not ready, that's what you buy on the promise of you should buy your tools based on what you can do now, right? Not on the promise of what you're going to be able to do eventually. With SaaS, with cloud-based software, the benefit is that you can always upgrade when you need it, right? You shouldn't be overextending yourself. You buy for what you need, and when you need more, you upgrade. It's usually that easy. And even if you need, but an upgrade means moving to another platform. Even if you have to leave Zendesk and go to Gorgeous, typically it's relatively easy to plug out one SaaS solution and plug in another. This flexibility is a real advantage, right? So you want to use that to your advantage and only make sure you're getting tools that you're ready for that map to the level of maturity that you are at. And three, you want to make sure that as you buy more of these products and start building a tech stack, that these products work together wherever possible, right? First thing you've got to ask, though, is how does this solution integrate into my own platform, right? How does it integrate into Shopify? Is it a one-click integration like an app from the App Store, or do I need a developer to configure stuff, or does it connect through some third-party tool that I need to pay for, right? There are lots of tools out there that work for Shopify stores, but they rely on connection services like Zapier actually to make that connection between the Shopify platform and this tool. look, that's great if that's an absolutely necessary tool that you need, but if possible, right, you're going to want to avoid that. You want to minimize the points of failure by going direct whenever you can. So less complexity in how these tools integrated into your own platform is good. And then once it's integrated into your own platform, you also want to make sure that wherever possible, these products talk to each other, right? Klaviyo is a great example of this. Klaviyo, very popular, I know, very well known. Klaviyo connects to Nosto for personalization. They connect to Akendo if you are sending review emails. They connect to Loop if you're managing returns, right, through Loop. And so you can see how compelling it becomes when you've got this integrated tech stack bundle now of these tools that actually talk to each other. You're building like a little ecosystem here, right? And so you want the more of your components that can talk to each other, the better, right? So you want to always look for that, right? You want to ask outright, like what, as part of your criteria when you're evaluating a tool, what other tools does this solution integrate, and are those tools that I'm already working with? Next slide, please. Okay, so I've talked about how to identify areas of need. I've talked about how you should evaluate and choose these products. The last part of this future-proof mindset I'm trying to get across here is just to rethink maybe how you value these products, right? So first off, I know it can be tempting sometimes when you look at ongoing subscription costs to consider building your own solution. Lots of people reject that outright, and that's fine. But lots of businesses, as you've got your own development team, you start to consider this sort of thing, and really it doesn't necessarily make sense to do that in most cases. There are always exceptions, but honestly, these technology partners that you're buying, right? They have teams that are entirely dedicated to solving a specific problem for commerce businesses at a level and a depth that your teams aren't really going to be able to match. These organizations have teams of people continually developing new features, adapting to changes in market, investing in R&D. This is what you're actually paying for, right? When you subscribe to a service, you're paying for the industry expertise and the development resources that they bring to the table to extend your business. The classic example of this is Shopify, right? Like Shopify Plus merchants, you'll pay $2,000 a month for the platform, right? And as part of that fee, they benefit from a massive team of people around the world. Shopify's huge now, right? And we're entirely focused on building better tools to help you sell more. We have hundreds of people at Shopify whose only job it is to continue to test and tweak and improve our checkout flow, right? So that it's the highest converting checkout of any commerce platform, right? Good for us. You can try to build your own checkout, and people sometimes do. Headless is a whole other topic. We'll talk about it in another meetup probably. So I'm not going to get into headless right now, but for most merchants, for the majority of people, right, $2,000 a month for Shopify is less than the cost of a junior employee. And for that, you get everything that Shopify brings to the table and all the expertise of our teams, right? This is what you're paying for, right? Why would you build that yourself? Let us do it, and we'll do it better, and we'll do it cheaper, right? So when you add up the ongoing cost of technology, that's what you're paying for. But I get that there's still sticker shock, right? We're all price sensitive, and I know it still hurts when you start to add up, oh my gosh, like $2,000 for Shopify, but actually I'm paying 3 or 4 times that in the tech stack to extend the functionality of the core platform, right? That hurts. But this is the most important thing, really. If you want to think about fees, this is what I want you to understand, right? The most important message of everything is it doesn't really matter what the price of any individual solution is, right? It only matters what the return is on that investment for you and your business. So an example of this, merchants on Shopify are very vocal publicly about how much Yotpo costs as a reviews platform, right? Yotpo are not the cheapest option. They're not shy about that. But Yotpo remains extremely popular and very successful in our ecosystem, even though they price themselves quite high. And the reason for that is because for many merchants, the return on investment with Yotpo is worth it, right? They do the math. They see an increase in their conversion rates. They're spending this much, but they're getting this much back. And so it makes sense for them. And when you think of it that way, this is not a cost anymore. It's an investment, and this is the return on that investment, right? So to be clear here, I'm not actually saying Yotpo is the right solution for any particular person here either, right? What I'm saying is that that's how you need to think about these solutions, right? You need to do the work to test them, and you need to measure what the return on investment is for your business specifically. And that's how you find the right technology fit for your tech stack. Next slide, please. Okay, all right. So this is my final slide to wrap this up. And this really partly is just meant to counter that first image I put up, right, with the 8,000 technology options. This is how you start to filter that down into something that's manageable, right? Everybody here, I'm sure, is familiar with the Shopify App Store. I just wanted to say I'm actually really excited personally by some of the future plans that I cannot talk about, but we have for making the App Store an even better tool for merchants to help match you to the best fit apps for your business and your needs, right? So there's going to be some great innovation coming out of Shopify around that. But for now, it's still a really useful tool, right? To help you weed through the thousands of options that you have for technology solutions. You use reviews, you can use our filters to shortlist options and then start applying that evaluation criteria I talked about. And the other thing that I've called it on the slide is just that we have a Shopify Plus certified app program. And so even if you're not a Shopify Plus merchant, this is still probably of interest to you, right? We have 6,000 apps in our ecosystem. We have about 60, I think, now that are Plus certified. Plus certified means that we've vetted them, we've reviewed them, we've looked at their impact in terms of stability, impact on your store speed, things like their ability to support merchants. And we've designated them as being typically delivering good ROI for merchants, for Plus merchants in particular, right? So it's another filter that you can use if you want to kind of try to shortcut and streamline your process to try to identify options that you want to start testing, is to look at our certified app solutions. And I'll just call out too, the logos that I've got here is just representative of the group, the wider group. But what's great about the logos I've got up on the screen now, these are all Shopify Plus certified app partners who happen to have teams local in Australia. And that's actually something else that you want to think about, right? As you're looking and evaluating tech partners, is are there people on the ground in my time zone available to help me onboard, to help me with ongoing support, to help me upgrade when I need to, that sort of thing. So, so just calling out these partners because they're actually in Australia, which is wonderful. So just to kind of wrap up then and summarize what I'm been talking about. One, you want to make sure you start with a clear understanding of what your business needs are. First principles. I know it's basic again, but I cannot be stressed enough because people forget it all the time. Two, I provided some evaluation criteria that you want to think about when you start to shortlist your options, so it's not too much work when you get to step 3, which is putting the work in, testing and measuring the options, and then thinking about the investment and the return on that investment properly, right? So you see the value from this, and when you're seeing a good ROI, then you've got the right fit for your business. So it can be daunting, I know, to build out and evolve a tech stack, and it can be a little scary with the prices you got to pay, but hopefully these principles are going to help make that process a little bit easier for everybody. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Jason. I really love kind of how you've broken it down into that, really evaluating the needs of the business and then making sure you measure the return. I think too many clients that we speak to, I call it the new and shiny, where they see a new app and they're like, oh, this is cool, like I'll do this, but really actually take the time to understand, like, is it right for your business? And is it alleviating some of those key pressures that you're currently seeing?
Absolutely. The question I get all the time is, what does Fashion Nova use? I'll just use what they use. And it doesn't apply. So
no, it doesn't always work. Awesome. Thanks so much, Jason. Just a reminder, everyone, please make sure you are putting your questions. If you have any burning questions that you want to ask of the team, please feel free to pop it in the chat. We'll collate them at the end and loop back to those Q&As. So our next speaker I'd like to introduce is Nathan Bush. So Nathan is an e-commerce strategist who has experience as a retailer, consultant, and agency partner. So Nathan is the director at eSuite, which is a talent agency connecting the best e-commerce talent with fast-growing retailers. He's also been named the top 50 people in e-commerce for 4 years in a row. He hosts the Add to Cart podcast and is a regular on Inside Retail contributor as well. So what Nathan is going to be taking us through is when you're actually scaling an e-commerce business, it's really easy to put all of your attention on the marketing and the tech. But without those really great people, your investments will just be wasted. So Nathan is going to share with us what eSuite is seeing within the e-commerce talent market and his tips on attracting and keeping the best e-commerce talent. So welcome, Nathan. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Em. Really appreciate that intro. Really great to be here, guys. It's actually really exciting because it's the first time I've spoken under the eSuite banner. So as Em mentioned, that I've previously been in retail, I was in Super Retail Group for 6 years, been consulting for the last 3 years, and eSuite started late last year. Now, the thing that made eSuite was obviously COVID. We had a huge explosion in e-commerce. And as a consultant, I was going into a lot of founders and a lot of CEOs and talking about what they can do to help grow, but also manage the growth in their businesses, because a lot of people are growing without even trying. And always the conversation was around technology and marketing. It was around what platforms can we use? What if we doubled our Google ad spend? And these are all great conversations. They're absolutely the right conversations. But my question back was always, if you do this and you continue to grow and you grow at 300% and you put in these enterprise systems or Shopify Plus or any of those systems, who's going to manage this for you? Right from the start, like product data, all the way through to fulfillment. We need to be able to have those conversations around team. And I think Jason summed it up really well. It's like when we're choosing technology, we need to make sure we've got the skills in-house to get the most value and the most ROI out of it. Otherwise, it's the old analogy of putting the Ferrari in the driveway and having no one to drive it. So that's when the attention for me, I was like, well, I don't think anyone's out there really looking after e-commerce talent. And as I'm about to show you, in Australia, we've got a little bit of a different environment, especially right now post-COVID, that we have to approach e-commerce talent in a different way. So today I'm going to talk through what we're seeing in the market and also some tips on what I would do if I was in a retailer's shoes and trying to manage and keep talent. And I will 100% say my answer isn't recruitment. It's always the last thing we look to is recruitment. There are so many steps before you get to recruiting new talent. And I want to make sure that we revisit these before pushing into that. So the environment we find ourselves in right now, if I can have the next slide, please, Emily. So post-COVID, we're in a nice little storm here, right? So if we look at phenomenal growth we've had over COVID, it's not unusual, right, to see 50, 60, 70% growth in e-commerce businesses, even ones that weren't prepared for it and weren't trying, naturally getting that growth. And then that has an impact on team, right, in terms of both capacity, but bringing new skills in. We can't escape this growth. In Australia, we've got borders closed. So it's never been harder to bring talent in from overseas. We've got change fatigue. And this is one that I didn't see coming, right? So last year was incredibly head down, bum up for most people in e-commerce. It was just get through this craziness, put your head down. We're dealing with a lot in our personal lives. It was just an achievement to get through 2020. And now we're in a candidates market in 2021 where there are more e-commerce jobs than ever, but there is still change fatigue hanging over people. It feels like everyone's got into 2021 and gone, I kind of know there's a lot of opportunities out there, but I'm really tired. And I just want to sit down and do my best job in 2021 after 2020. So we've got a shortage of people who are willing to make big change decisions right now. In Australia, we've also got a lack of clear pathways, and that's that pathway from university into e-commerce. There's a real desire, and what we're seeing in market is there's a real desire for people, for businesses employing people with 1 or 2 years e-commerce experience. Unfortunately, there's not many of those people because businesses want just enough knowledge to be able to get in, use things like Google Analytics, use things like Shopify, use things like Facebook advertising, and then teach them and mold them themselves. Unfortunately, they're very few on the ground. So even though it's a lovely idea to be able to get people that have 1 or 2 years experience and be able to mold them, it's actually not that easy. At the same time, we've got a lot of new work expectations. So what we saw during COVID, obviously, I don't need to tell you guys, is a huge increase in remote and flexible work. Keep in mind, both things are very, very different. And what we're seeing right now is that businesses are very open to flexible work, things like change around of hours, part-time, full-time, in the office some days, out of the office some days. But what there is less flexibility around is remoteness. So we've actually come out of COVID and most businesses are looking for local talent, which brings the talent pool right down, especially when we're looking at regional markets, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, Byron Bay, those kind of markets. To have people in your local area that can be in the office some days, out of the office some days, actually reduces your talent pool significantly. We haven't actually seen remote work take off in Australia. And the last point that I've got here is that Australia is still an immature market. Even though COVID has accelerated e-commerce in Australia, 5 years, We're still behind other countries. We've still got a very difficult e-commerce landscape with how big we are and how vast we are to make e-commerce work profitably. So you put all those factors together, and if you're a retailer looking to bring on talent, it's actually never been so hard. If you're a candidate, the options are open for you. There's a lot of options out there, but for retailers, it's very hard. So what I want to share with you today is some tips. If you are a retailer or you're leading a team within a retailer, of where I would suggest that you lead your efforts around developing and keeping great people in your businesses to complement those big investments that you're making in technology and marketing. So the 4 steps I've got, like I said, I'm not going to go straight to recruitment. If I was in your shoes, recruitment would be the last thing that I would be looking at. 4 steps I've got for you: keep your current team happy, foster good talent, lean on your partners, and then, if you need to, test the market. I'll launch into each one a little bit separately. First one is, the most important thing is to keep your good people happy. And when we're in a retail business, we are so busy, constantly busy, that sometimes it is so hard to pop your head up and go, is everyone happy? But I think from an investment point of view and an ROI point of view on your business, it is the most critical activity that you can do in your business. So some tips around keeping people happy. Be proactive in progression and remuneration conversations. So don't wait for your team to come to you and go, oh, I just got an offer over here and they're offering $10,000 more, or these flexible conditions. Be proactive, get on the front foot, understand what the market's doing, reward your best people, and go to them with solutions. It doesn't mean you have to pay overs. It just means that if you're proactive, you don't have them looking around all the time for new opportunities. Second one I've got there is have clear KPIs. I speak to a lot of founders, and the common thing that I see from a lot of founders who are so overwhelmed is that their team don't have clear KPIs. And a lot of them think of it as well, I'm a cool boss, I don't have KPIs, my team just do what they want. But KPIs actually help frame conversations and help frame success. Instead of taking empowerment out, they actually empower the team to know exactly what they're reaching for and know what they can do. Clear KPIs, when used well, actually create a really, really strong team. The one I've got there is trialing flexible and remote arrangements. So we talked there around flexibility, and there are so many different ways to be flexible. Now, keep in mind that flexibility doesn't mean that you do less. Flexible means that you work around your lifestyle. So what we're finding is that there's still a lot of candidates out there who go, I want flexible work, meaning that I have half a day off on Friday. Well, it means you get paid half a day less. It doesn't mean that you do less work in the same amount of time. It means that you hit the outcomes in ways that work around your life. Remote, obviously, if you can be open to remote, you are going to capture so much more of the talent pool, and you're going to allow your team to be more free with their lifestyle and the choices that they make in their life. If you can offer it, it's a fantastic way to keep people, because not many businesses are doing it, even post-COVID. And the last one I've got there is empower your team and encourage some owned risk. And what I mean by that is allow your team to take risk, because we're in e-commerce, right? Jason showed that great graph of all the different technologies and all the different innovations that are available to us. If you box people in and you say, this is all you're going to do, I need you to hit this ROI using this platform, using this ad set, and that's all you're doing, they're going to get bored pretty quickly. So while there will always be 80% of the work that is follow the bouncing ball, let's find the little improvements along the way, set some big goals, set some big challenges, and empower them to go after them. Go to the next slide, thanks. So then if you keep your team happy, what you want to do is you want to be fostering your talent internally. You want to keep them growing. So you want to be clear on attitudes and culture, not just the skill you're building. So a lot of people, when we say we need a training and a development program in place, it goes straight to, well, what courses can they do? But what we actually want to do is we want to break that down into what I call a 70-20-10 rule. And it's not my idea. It's an idea that I've used in previous workplaces, where 70% of training is actually stretching people in on-the-job work. So it's about giving them tasks that they don't normally do in their work, giving them, really giving them things outside of their day-to-day job to learn and develop those skills. The 20% being, let's expose them to people and mentors and people that will really teach them something in terms of mentorship to keep them learning. And then that last 10% being courses. So when we say training and development, we don't mean go out and do courses, even though there are lots of good courses out there. Think about how you can stretch them in their current day job. And when you want to foster talent, you don't just want to think about what skills we need. Is it Facebook skills? Is it technical development skills? Think about the culture and the attitudes that you're breeding here. So if you want to breed a more innovative culture, if you want to breed a more creative culture, if you want to breed a more analytical culture, think about how you bring that throughout the organization so that everyone's creative, everyone's analytical, or everyone's innovative. Look for, I might just go back quickly on that last slide. Just the one that I'll point out is, especially for e-commerce, look for those hidden skills, especially in customer service and warehouse teams. The amount of people that we see progress through e-commerce businesses from customer service and warehouse is phenomenal. And it's such a brilliant place to find those hidden skills. People who might be graphic designers, might be videographers, might be running their own businesses on the side. Really tap into those people because you'll find some great talent in there. Next one I've got there is lean on partners. And again, this goes back into the last point, but you have so many great partners in e-commerce who are constantly helping you develop talent. So if you've got a skill shortage in your business, whether that be development, whether that be paid performance, and there's lots of paid performance shortages at the moment, don't feel you've got to fill it all internally. There are so many great partners out there like Reload that you can lean on to fill short-term gaps until you're sure that you need a full-time resource. And even then, you might look at that model and you might go, we actually don't need it in-house. We're better off having it externally to get the best of the best talent. Don't feel you've always got to fill it in-house. You've also got platforms like Shopify who have the most amazing training programs that people can do and upskill internally. We're working with clients at the moment who have their customer service teams doing the Google Analytics basic course so that they can start transitioning into e-commerce roles. It's the same for Shopify. So many great courses out there, and doesn't have to necessarily be just your e-commerce team that do these courses. And then the last point I've got there is around connecting with other retailers. We are so lucky in Australia that we've got such a great connected e-commerce ecosystem. As you've seen from the people today in this call, it's amazing how many people are in here and how much e-commerce retailers are keen to share with each other. I'm constantly surprised on Add to Cart how much retailers share publicly. And if you are a retailer, 9 times out of 10, when you knock on another retailer's door and say, hey, can we come over and do a site tour? Can we pick your brains on this? They will say yes. It's such a great way to upskill and share knowledge. The last one, and this is where we come in usually, is around testing the market. And sometimes you do have to go to town and find the people that you're looking for. Now, the ways you can do this, you can obviously put Seek and LinkedIn ads out there, and sometimes they work. Sometimes they create that little bit of gold and you find the right person. However, the problem with those is that usually you get the people that are on the market looking for jobs, not the best talent. So doesn't mean you need to use a recruiter straight away. What I would always suggest is when you're putting a new role out there, think about what's your mission and what will resonate with potential people coming into your business. And it's often not the job description or the job role. It's about you and your mission. We have a thing that we do at eSuite called the founder video. And when we first talk to people about jobs, we film a 10-minute video with the founder around their culture, where they're going in their business. And we put that in front of candidates to say, look, we'll talk about the role later, but here's the company and here's the incredible things they're doing. And that usually gets them more excited than the role themselves. So think about that when you're going to market. Be crystal clear on your non-negotiables. Don't go in being flexible on things that you know that you won't compromise on. If you're non-negotiable at the start, if you say, actually, everyone has to be in the office, even if you're not that comfortable with it, if you know that you won't budge from it, state it at the start because it will help narrow your pool down really quickly. Don't settle for who's on market, because you won't get the best of the best. Do your outreach, contact people, ask people. One of the best ways of asking people, and you guys probably get in your inbox all the time, is contact the people that you'd love to be in your business and go, do you know anyone who'd be great for this role? A lot of the times they might put their hand up and say it's me, or they'll actually give you leads, which is a really great thing as well. The last one I've got there is act fast and be responsive. As soon as you hit the market, don't put it out there and wait. Don't think about, don't let it just sit for weeks and then come back and have a look at who's applied. You need to be reactive, because the market is moving so quick. And if you're not responsive, if you're not involved in that process, the talent will move on pretty quickly. So as soon as you go to market, you need to keep it running pretty well. So that's us. So they're my tips. I would always say, keep your team happy, keep them upskilled, lean on your partners, and then if you need to go to market, go to market. Where we come in, we can always help, because going to market is time intensive. We specialize in e-commerce recruitment, and we specialize in targeted search, meaning that we have a network where we tap people on the shoulder all the time for new opportunities. So if that's something we can help with, happy to, but otherwise, keep your people happy.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Nathan. I think one of the really interesting points you made is just about, I guess, working with the right partners. I know that at Reload, we do this where we actually work with their internal team. So you can kind of tie, like, work with the right partners to keep your team happy. You can use your partners to upskill that team. They don't have to be the specialists, but they can, you know, get educated and really start to understand, like, what all of this kind of marketing stuff is. But yeah, love it. Really great insights there. Thank you so much. Great, so we are on to our third and final speaker for today, and I'd like to welcome up Lucinda. So Lucinda started her career in the US working in marketing the e-commerce for an American fashion company before moving back to Australia to run e-commerce and digital marketing for beauty group Novoderm. Lucinda came to Facebook in early 2018 and worked in the SMB team for ANZ, based in Singapore, focusing on those really fast-growing pure play fashion and beauty e-commerce businesses. So since 2018, she has worked as a client solutions manager with the e-commerce team, and is now working across clients like The Iconic and Amazon and Adore Beauty. So today, Lucinda is going to be focusing on how to leverage the right marketing tactics to really elevate your business and grow with an increasingly unpredictable and competitive online market. So she'll also be covering the latest and greatest topics from Facebook, and then finish with some key takeaways to help scale your business on the platform. So Lucinda, I'd like to welcome you to the floor, and it's over to you.
Thanks, Em, and hi to everyone who I have had the pleasure of meeting before, and welcome to those who I haven't met before. So I'm Lucinda. My mum only calls me Lucinda when I'm in trouble, so Lucy is generally what I'm called. And like Em said, I'm a client solutions manager for the Digital Disruptors team, which is a fancy name for e-commerce. I was working with direct-to-consumer businesses, but now since the beginning of the year have had a focus on marketplaces. So still working with The Iconic, Amazon and Adore Beauty, along with Pet Circle, Culture Kings, and a couple of others. So why don't we kick off? If we go to the next slide, perfect. All right, so a challenge that I face every day across clients in my immediate book and clients I've worked with before is account setup. So the most effective account setup in terms of getting you the lowest cost per desired outcomes. So I'm going to explain to you the ins and outs of a simplified account structure and why it's important and how you can really leverage our platform using that simplified structure. So starting with one of the most important questions, how can you achieve the most valuable impressions for your campaign? The short answer is you can achieve the most valuable impressions for your campaign by ensuring that every dollar flows along the most efficient route to fulfill your objective. A huge challenge that I face is that traditional campaign setup does not allow for flow. Traditional campaign setup allocates budgets, selects a target audience, chooses a platform or surface for the campaign to appear on, and hopes that by laying these restrictions, the campaign will fulfill its objective through excluding other options. So a lot of information in the one sentence. Imagine for a second if instead you could allow your campaigns to figure out for themselves how to fulfill their objectives. Imagine if every dollar was able to flow through the most impactful impression. We call this flow liquidity. And what does this mean for you as advertisers on Facebook? It means that advertisers can take advantage of our machine learning by increasing the liquidity of your campaigns. The more liquid and flexible in the campaign, the better our machine learning models can match ads to users, allowing our delivery system to maximize the available reach. So to bring everything together, I'm going to run you through account simplification best practices to boost campaign performance. Simplifying your account structure helps increase campaign performance through automation and liquidity. In other words, we want to show you how fewer ads can lead to greater performance through exiting the learning phase faster. So before I kick off into how we're going to do this, pre-pandemic and during the pandemic, we saw that clients who had adopted a simplified structure saw an 82% higher return on ad spend and just over halving the cost per action. So pretty compelling numbers there for the simplified structure. Let's chat learning phase. So a super foundational factor for campaign performance, but I think there's a lot of memes around the learning phase. What is the learning phase? How does it work? Is it rigid? Is it not? So let's go through that. The learning phase is set at the ad set level, and every ad set has a learning phase. This occurs at the start of each new ad or ad set, or when you make a significant change to an existing ad set or ad. During this time, the delivery system is exploring the best way to deliver your ad set. Why? Because the delivery system needs time, aka data, to learn to find the best way to deliver your ad to the right person. The learning phase is the period of time after an ad set goes live when the delivery system is still learning the best way to deliver that ad set. With every impression served, the better the delivery system becomes at optimizing the ad's performance towards the optimization goal that you've assigned. Ad sets exit the learning phase as soon as their performance has stabilized. Usually performance stabilizes as an ad set receives around 50 conversion events over a 7-day period. So that's important to note. If 7 days, sometimes less, have lapsed since a significant edit or an ad set has started, the delivery column is going to read learning limited, and there's a little orange triangle next to it. If that happens, the recommendation is to restart that ad set because it's never going to efficiently deliver you the results that you want. So this is what an active learning phase looks like. So during that initial start, the delivery system is exploring the best way to deliver your ad set. And then over time, that CPA will stabilize, or like you can see here, it will calibrate. So this is the most important thing to note. When your ad is in learning, it's using your investment, so let's say $100 a day, to discover the most efficient way to deliver your ad set rather than using the investment to achieve your optimization goals. So if your optimization goal is a purchase, those first few days or times of conversion and learning, your investment is being put into learning, not achieving that goal. So naturally, your CPA will fluctuate a lot. So the important thing here is getting through learning as quickly as possible. So we have those 50 conversions, ideally in under 7 days. So let's see how a simplified structure can assist with that. At its core, a simplified structure means more signal, which drives costs down. Groundbreaking stuff. A simplified structure results in more efficient CPAs and increased scale, which we'll go into in a moment. So I think we're just a couple of slides behind. We go to the next one, please, Em. Perfect. All right. So this is how we're going to look at the two and compare them. So on the left-hand side, we've got 3 individual ad sets, and each of these ad sets is going to require 50-ish events to exit the learning phase. This means that your ad sets need to generate around 150 events to experience optimized delivery across all 3. This setup will likely have repeated ads across each ad set, thereby requiring higher ad volume. So if you're just starting out as a business and you have conservative budgets and you're optimizing to a purchase, to get 150 purchases in 7 days can be a challenge. If that's the case, maybe we go down to a different event. But ideally what we do is we look at the diagram on the right-hand side, which shows the recommended consolidation approach. So since there's only one ad set now, the example only requires around 50 events. And this setup also requires lower ad volume. So not only do you have to create less creative, you're going to get through learning faster, and you can still optimize for the event that you care about. So on the left-hand side, you could optimize for a lower intent signal, but if you want to optimize for a purchase, why would you sacrifice that and go for an add to cart when you could just simplify your campaign? So a few tips when it comes to that simplified approach. First and foremost, please start with broad targeting and keep it super simple. So leverage as many geographies and broad age groups as possible, because our machine learning system works best with as many variables of data as possible. I started working with Facebook about 6 years ago when working in beauty, and for a fake tan company, I would be able to target bikinis, summer, fake tan, YouTube beauty, the most individualized interests. Gone are those days. That is going to cost you a bomb. So we really want to go as broad as possible to allow the system to match the right customer with the right ad. If your focus is on incrementality, we would recommend excluding recent visitors to your website to ensure that you're getting in front of new users that don't have your business top of mind. So working with marketplaces, a primary metric, or the primary metric, I'd say, is gaining new customers, because that is how my clients are seeing growth. For me, unfortunately, gone are the days of just a strong return on ad spend or a really low CPA. Clients want new customer purchases at the lowest CPA possible. If you're focused on net new customer acquisition, again, exclude the CRM data file customer audience of your lifetime customers. So you can exclude recent visitors, or you can exclude your entire CDP database. So another hot tip, surprise, surprise, the more placements, we're just going to go to the next slide, please, Em. Thank you. The more placements your ads appear in, the more likely you are to reach or convert someone for your objective. So again, it's that concept of going nice and broad so the system can match up a user to an ad. Organizations that have more placements across our platforms tend to experience better results from their campaigns, and that is a fact. With automatic placements, you get more for your spend and campaign management efforts. Firstly, you get lower cost per outcomes. So running ads in multiple placements in a single app or across many platforms gives Facebook the ability to show your ads in lower cost placements, helping to lower your overall cost per outcome. So I'm using the example of a purchase, so to get the lowest cost per purchase possible. Secondly, the simpler campaign management. By letting Facebook handle the task of finding the best placement, you can potentially spend less time setting up your campaign and testing for optimal results. So off the back of Nathan's presentation, if you feel like you do need to hire someone to run social full-time, you probably don't. I think you probably just need to simplify your account. And thirdly, expanding your reach. So automatic placements makes it easy to extend the reach of an existing campaign by enabling placement on more platforms and multiple placements within a single app. All right, so a bit of audience participation. So if everyone can jump on the chat for me. If you are currently advertising outside of Australia, so are you a cross-border client? Can you please indicate on the chat for me? Yeah, Zach, Craig, yes. Chris, Alex, thank you. It's so awkward doing these on VC because you can't do the audience participation. Cross-border, beautiful, awesome. So this one's for you guys. And if you're thinking about growing cross-border, this might be the piece de resistance for you. So grouping countries into ad sets works in a similar way to automatic placements. The recommendation is you should group countries in the same ad set to increase auction opportunities. Segmenting audiences into different campaigns or ad sets reduces the number of auction opportunities for your ads and the chance we can match your ad with the best possible audience. Also, dynamic language optimization with auto translate is a product that allows two outcomes. Firstly, it identifies your audience's preferred languages and delivers the ads to them in their preferred language. And then auto translation. It automatically translates your ad copy into up to 48 languages at no extra cost. So these are some amazing products that have been built into our system. With both of those features, you might be able to achieve better campaign results and scalability with fewer ads. So I'm just conscious of time. I've only got a couple more slides, so I'll just whiz through these. Last slide on account simplification. So another one for the cross-border crew, multi-language and country dynamic ads let you run global, regional, or domestic dynamic ad campaigns and show localized content to users based on their preference by using a single catalog, which simplifies the ad setup process and unifies all of your catalogs. So again, the simplification process is seamless. How it works, so when you add a secondary language and country feed to the catalog, you can create a dynamic ad for multiple languages and countries from the single catalog. The information on the secondary feeds overrides the default language or country when the relevant audience sees your ad. Thank you, Emily. Getting a bit trigger happy. So that is the end of our little account simplification piece. So looking forward to any questions if you have any in the chat or during Q&A. I was asked to do a really quick iOS 14 update, very topical at the moment. I think just leading into this, if you're confused, like take solace in the fact that I'm confused. Everyone that I work with is confused. So whether that's promising or terrifying, I don't know. I generally think by bringing everyone's lack of knowledge together, we all feel a bit better about things. We can all be confused together. Thanks, Jason. All right. So on the iOS 14 bandwagon, so how should we be thinking about building strategies in the face of the rapidly changing ads ecosystem? So diving into some considerations for the future, and if we could just jump to the next slide, please. Perfect. So implement a data handling strategy that gives people choices and honors those choices. So first-party data is becoming even more valuable, and those businesses who understand the lifetime value of your customers and what actions they drive the most value will have an advantage. Prioritize relevant and robust information for personalized advertising, such as data that improves event match quality. For example, email addresses and phone numbers. When implementing a data handling strategy, consider collecting only what is needed to enable the best personalized experience. And please don't forget, when storing data, please be judicious about how long it's kept. Audience segmentation. With the shift to aggregated data, we expect to see less precision in who can be targeted or excluded from campaigns, which is a real bummer. Lines between prospecting and remarketing will become blurred, and there may be better ways to segment the customer journey in this new environment. Campaign management. Delayed attribution will require a more patient approach to optimizing campaigns. Those who rely on micro adjustments and pulling levers many times a day will be at a disadvantage. Personalization. So as we learn to work with less data, there will be an opportunity to drive personalization in other ways, such as rapid creative production to test and learn more quickly, and partnering with creators and influencers to reach new audiences in a way that is immediately relevant to them and their interests. And then finally, please consider additional measurement techniques. As we prepare for a more privacy-conscious future, we will need to anticipate that some measurement approaches will be more effective than others, and this may change over time. Considerations include adding privacy-conscious techniques to measurement strategies, such as those that rely on aggregated data like MMM, or data that your customers share directly, such as brand lift surveys. All right, guys, that is all I have. I just realized, you're responding to Zach for me. Thank you so much. A lot of information. Yeah, feel free to ask any questions shortly.
Thanks so much, Lucinda. I don't know about anyone else, but those insights and those recommendations were absolute fire. So I'm sure everyone is very happy that this whole session has been recorded. So you can go back and listen to Lucinda's tips there as well. So that brings us to the end of the presentation section. Before we dive into the Q&A, I do just want to share some helpful hints and links for you guys. So at Reload, we are offering a free e-commerce health check. So looking at your existing marketing mix and just giving you tips and advice on what you could do differently or things that may or may not be working. the eSuite team have also created an e-commerce salary guide. So just looking at how much your e-commerce managers should be getting paid internally. We've got that link there as well. If you did want to know any more about the iOS 14 and Facebook updates, Lucinda has put together a link there too. And we also have awesome Shopify resources. So all of the links are already in the chat. So feel free to click on any of those and reach out to the teams as needed. Also, if this is your first meetup and you want to join us for the rest of the meetups, please feel free to stay in touch with Reload either via meetup.com, follow us on our socials, or jump onto our reloadmedia.com.au and sign up for our mailing list. So I will now invite the rest of the panel back for Q&A. If everyone wants to turn on their video and audio. Awesome. So hopefully everyone can see everyone on our screen. Again, if you do have any questions or anything, please feel free to pop them in the chat. But to kind of kick off, I would love to just get an idea from everyone. I know each of you have different relationships with different types of merchants. And I think one of the things that have come out of this is I think tech is a big thing that really like drives e-commerce growth and drives performance. So I would love to know if you could recommend one tech or tool or platform to a merchant for them to use, what would it be? And Lucinda, your cat can also have an answer as well if you would like.
I don't think there's anything cat food related. Like if Whiskers or Dine were an answer or a merchant, I would say those. Do you know what? This is going to sound really cheesy, but Shopify, Facebook, and Instagram are just the holy trinity. So, I mean, 10 points to everyone that's already on Shopify, clearly. The other one that I think integrates really well, I love Emarsys. I think Emarsys as a CRM platform works extremely well. So yeah, Shopify #1 and then Emarsys #2.
Awesome.
I would
pass to Jason.
Yeah, I would jump in here. So
Yeah.
I think one of the points I was trying to make with my talk, right, was not to single out specific solutions, but to start with the core problem you're trying to solve. And in that vein, what I would say is so I spent a lot of time with merchants. One of the biggest gaps, I think, in terms of what merchants should be doing and they're not doing is around customer profiling and segmentation and personalization. So there are a number of tools that you would bring together to do that. But if you're sending the same messages to all of your customers, you're missing huge opportunities. You need to figure out how to identify and categorize your customers and segment them accordingly. And you need to figure out how to send different messages at different frequencies, different cadences to those customers that are tailored for how they like to interact with you. And that is the biggest opportunity that I think most merchants oversee.
Cool. And I'd just add to that, I think both of those are absolutely great. I'd add the data layer in on top of that and say people who know how to use platforms like Data Studio to tell stories with data, not just give big tables and graphs, can actually change an organization by getting everyone to speak the same language and get things moving really quickly if you tell it in stories rather than data.
Yeah, I was actually going to add in there Data Studio because we use that internally, and that's just really changed the whole reporting game. I mean, you have different people at different levels within an organization, and it's really hard to understand, as you said, the story that the data is actually telling you, and Data Studio really allows you to do that. I think I will just add one into that. So we use a tool internally called Supermetrics, which allows you to then pull in other data sources that won't naturally and organically just integrate with Data Studio. So if you do have all of these other techs and tools and platforms and things that you're trying to reference, then having something like Supermetrics or some sort of other connector will allow you to really tell the full story of your data as well.
I actually think, sorry, Emily, so one of the questions in the Q&A, Ian asked, Nathan, what's the biggest skill gap in e-commerce? I think we're kind of hitting on a theme here, right? Around data. I know from a Shopify point of view, the thing that we see, the ability to extract the right data, make it relevant is absolutely a skill gap. But Nathan, you might have a different opinion. The question was asked to you.
No, it is. And I think what we're finding is that a lot of people are looking for people who are strategic and also hands-on, and those people rarely exist. So if you can find a way to be able to understand the data and then implement at the same time, whether that is advertising, whether that's UX, wherever it is, being able to kind of straddle between both worlds of insight plus action is a huge skill gap in demand. Good question, Megan.
Cool. The next one that I'm going to put out to the speakers is if you could give merchants one key thing that they should go away and do either this afternoon or some point this week, what would be your number one recommendation?
Boys?
I'd go away and ask your team if they're happy. In whatever way you do that, it could be as simple as a quick email. Tell me on a scale of 1 to 5 how happy you are and why. Having that pulse check and that regular pulse check is really important.
I would probably say something that merchants don't do enough is benchmark. Like really understand the most important metrics for your business right now. So, and understand where you sit with things like conversion rate, average order value, lifetime customer value, and everything that you do, like once you do that benchmark, then every action you take from here on out, check back against those benchmarks to see how it impacted.
My one would be, and this one I used to do a lot when I was client side, is process a dummy order, go through and have a look at your website like you're a customer and make sure that user journey is seamless. So is your add to cart button above the fold? Is the description clear? Are your shipping terms and conditions clear? What's your return policy? Is it easy for people to find that information? Are there size breaks in stock? Just really go ahead and be subjective and play the role of the customer, because sometimes you'd be surprised how much a small change can affect your conversion rate.
Yeah, I think as well, sorry, I was going to just add to Lucinda's point, even get your mum to do it, or a group of your friends, and just say, I want you to just go through this and rip it apart, because even though we sometimes go through that process, I think you still have blinkers on and you know where all these buttons are and you know how to do everything, but we don't always, yeah.
To your point, Em, I read a really good article the other day saying the two groups to get to user test your site should be 12 and 13-year-olds, because they're the ones coming through, and the over 50. Ignore everyone in between, because they probably know how to use it well enough.
So that triggers something for me, actually, in terms of, again, advice that I give to merchants all the time. Most merchants don't talk to customers nearly enough, right? Actually, we make all these assumptions about what our customers are doing and their behavior and why they're doing things, when actually pick up the phone and call some of them. It doesn't have to be a formal survey, study, research project. Just make a point of regularly getting on the phone and speaking to some of them, some that have purchased, and try to reach out to those that haven't purchased, they abandoned the cart, and ask them why, right? There's so much that you can glean from a couple of these conversations that otherwise you're just kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah, for sure.
Feedback
sorry, what was that, Lucinda?
Feedback is always a gift.
Yeah. Cool. I know we are running over, so I want to just ask one other question, and it's kind of a little bit off topic, but I'm just keen to get everyone's thoughts here, and I hopefully merchants will find it useful as well. We're coming into, I would say, the planning stage for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is a huge sale period for all e-commerce merchants. Any tips or insights and things that you would want to give to merchants to start to get ready for this?
Hold on
for dear life.
I'll say, related to what I was talking about, figure out your tech stack now. Don't be installing things. Don't be testing things and evaluating 2 weeks before BFCM. Make sure you're ready to go.
Yeah, just off the back of that, Jason, I think test and learn is a huge one for Facebook and Instagram. So for those who are investing in Facebook and Instagram ads, if you have a theory, now's the time to test it, not 2 weeks before. So that's a huge one. The second one for me would be go early. I think with the lack of signal, this iOS 14 palaver, any signal is good signal. And our biggest piece of advice would be to install Cappy. So thankfully, Shopify and Facebook, there's a one-click integration. Unfortunately, it's only for purchase at this point. What I would highly recommend everyone do is try to understand how to integrate Conversions API with your website, because I promise you will have more signal available than anyone who doesn't have it. So start looking into it now, and by the time we get there, you'll be right as rain.
Awesome. Great advice from everyone. And I think, just to tap into that as well is, don't leave it too late. I think that it's probably crazy to some people that we're even talking about it now, but now is the time to start getting ready, because it will be a big sale season again. So yeah, the earlier you can get ready, the better.
If you're stressed for time, like if the problem is I can't find the time to invest in this sort of thing, that's something you need to actually stand back and rethink about what you're doing in the business and figure out how you can get time back. But if you needed to really focus, I would also say for BFCM, the most important thing actually is conversion rate, right? You're going to get more customers coming to your site. Make sure you are optimized and streamlined from a conversion rate point of view. So what can you do? If you only do one thing between now and BFCM, how can I improve my conversion rate so that when that audience hits me, I'm ready to convert more of that into sales?
Awesome. Cool. Well, we are 10 minutes over. Thank you everyone for sticking around, and thank you so much to our panelists as well. I think there's been some amazing insights, like really good key actionable takeaways as well. So yeah, thanks again for your time and your amazing brains and all of the insights that you bring to this presentation. So thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for organizing, Emily.
No problem. It's a team effort. There's all these people here that are doing it as well.
Emily
so
and
I'm just
Reload
the face
team.
of it.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks everyone so much. And yeah, obviously all of the links are in the chat as well. We will be sending out a follow-up email with all of those links as well as the video. So feel free to reach out to us or any of the panelists if you have any questions. But thanks everyone so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.